Someone says something to you, something cruel or humiliating or just plain wrong, and you feel it land. You open your mouth to answer, and nothing comes out. You just stand there. You nod, maybe you even smile, and then you walk away. But for the next 3 nights, at 3 a.m., you're going to lie awake and deliver the perfect response to your ceiling. Here's the strange part. In that moment, the one that actually mattered, your body had everything it needed. Your heart was pounding, adrenaline was flooding your blood, you were more awake than you'd been all day, and you did nothing. So why do you freeze at the exact moment you most need to move? The answer has almost nothing to do with confidence, or courage, or who you are as a person. And it changes everything you think you know about your instincts, the people standing right next to you, and why you keep apologizing for something you never actually chose. Let's start with what's happening inside your skull. Because the freeze isn't a decision you make, it's a decision that gets made for you before you even know there's a decision to make. In 2007, a neuroscientist named Dean Mobbs, working at University College London, slid people into a brain scanner and made them play a game. A virtual predator hunted them through a maze. If it caught you, you got a real electric shock. And as Mobbs watched their brains light up, he saw something that quietly explains your entire life. When the threat was far away, the thinking part of the brain was in charge, the prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, reasons, weighs the options. Calm, strategic. But as the predator closed in, the activity drained out of that thinking brain and dropped down into a tiny, ancient knot of tissue deep in the midbrain. It's called the periaqueductal gray. That structure is older than thought. It's older than humans. It runs the survival reflexes you share with a lizard. And when it takes the wheel, it does not ask for your opinion. It picks one of 3 settings: fight, flight, or freeze, and it picks before the conscious you has even arrived in the room. So when you stood there, silent, while your mind screamed at you to say something, that wasn't you choking. That was a 100 million-year-old circuit looking at the situation, deciding you were prey, and pulling the handbrake. The freeze isn't a glitch in the system. The freeze is the system. It's the thing that kept your ancestors alive when moving would have gotten them killed. But here's where it gets worse. Because most of the time, you don't freeze alone. There are other people in the room. And you'd think that would help you. It does the exact opposite. In 1968, 2 psychologists, John Darley and Bib Latané, ran an experiment that should genuinely disturb you. They sat a person in a waiting room to fill out a questionnaire. Then they started pumping smoke into the room through a vent in the wall. Real smoke. Enough that it got hard to see. When the person was alone, they got up and reported it 75% of the time. Reasonable. There's smoke. You tell somebody. Then they ran it again. Same smoke. Except now, there were 2 other people sitting in the room, calmly filling out their forms, doing absolutely nothing. And the number collapsed. With 2 passive strangers in the room, the real participant reported the smoke only 10% of the time. Think about that. 90% of people sat in a room slowly filling with smoke, glanced at the calm faces around them, and decided it must be fine. The researchers called it diffusion of responsibility. When everyone is responsible, no one is. You look around for a signal, and everyone else is also looking around for a signal, and the shared stillness becomes a kind of permission to do nothing. This is why you said nothing in the meeting. It wasn't that you had nothing to say, it's that nobody else flinched, so your brain quietly concluded that flinching must be the wrong move. The freeze isn't just sitting inside you, it's contagious. It moves through a room in total silence. But the deepest part of this, the part that quietly ruins people for years, isn't about meetings or smoke or comebacks. It's about what the freeze does to the way you see yourself afterward. In 2017, a team led by Dr. Anna Möller studied 298 women who came to an emergency clinic in Stockholm in the days after being sexually assaulted. They asked them one simple, devastating question. In that moment, what did your body do? 70% reported significant tonic immobility, a state where the body physically cannot move. Not wouldn't, could not. Nearly half described it as extreme, total paralysis, unable to speak, unable to fight, frozen solid while it happened. Tonic immobility. It's the same reflex you see when a mouse goes limp in a cat's jaws, when an opossum plays dead. It is the oldest survival strategy there is. When fighting is impossible and running is impossible, the brainstem chooses stillness. And it is completely involuntary. The conscious mind is locked out of the controls. And here's the cruelty of it. For years afterward, the people this happens to lie awake asking themselves the same question on the same kind of sleepless night. Why didn't I do something? Why didn't I fight? They read their own stillness as weakness, or worse, as a kind of consent, as proof that some part of them let it happen. But it wasn't a choice. It was never a choice. It was 100 million-year-old reflex doing the one thing it exists to do, keep you alive by making you disappear. The freeze was not your failure. The freeze was your body's oldest act of protection. There's an old French phrase for the smallest, most harmless version of this. L'esprit de l'escalier, the wit of the staircase. The philosopher Denis Diderot described it back in the 1770s after a dinner party left him humiliated and speechless, unable to find a single word to defend himself. Until he reached the bottom of the staircase on his way out, where suddenly every perfect reply arrived at once. Too late, always too late. That's the trivial version, the very same circuit firing over a dinner table insult instead of a predator in the dark. But it is the exact same machine. So think about every single time you've called yourself a coward, every replay at 3 a.m., every "I should have said something." We treat the freeze like a character flaw, a thing that weak people do, something to be ashamed of and hide. But what if it was never weakness at all? What if the silence, the stillness, the words that wouldn't come, what if that wasn't you failing the moment? What if it was the oldest, most loyal part of you, doing exactly what it spent 300 million years learning to do? Deciding, faster than thought, that the safest thing you could possibly do was nothing. 70%, 90%, a circuit older than the human race. You are not broken, and you are never the only one. Almost everyone freezes. Almost no one admits it. The reflex that kept a small, frightened animal alive in the dark is the same one that holds your tongue in a bright, safe room. It cannot tell the difference between a predator and a rude coworker. It only knows one job: keep you here, keep you still, keep you breathing. So tonight, when the perfect comeback finally arrives, 3 days late, at the bottom of the staircase, with no one left to hear it, try to remember what that silence actually was. Not the moment you failed. The moment your body chose to keep you alive, and you never even knew it was happening.